Starting up on module 4, where we're going to start to talk about predictors. All right, as I said, we're going to be sort of pulling back our knowledge of regression, perhaps, that we picked up a little bit in module 2. So first, we'll start talking about predictors and what they are. Then we'll move into measurement again, because you can't get enough on the measurement topic. It doesn't go away. Okay. Then we're going to go on and talk about predictors of different types. One which is more based on perhaps stable worker traits or things that are consistent. And then finally, predictors where there's some uncertainty, there's probabilistic things involved. Okay. So here's a nice little picture to give us a good start. Okay. So a predictor, and there's lots of predictors out there we're going to talk about, but a potential predictor would be years of experience, and a criterion would be job performance, okay? And so clearly we could quantify this, years of experience as a predictor, criterion as job performance, and we could say, oh, if somebody has 2 years of experience, I predict that they will have a job performance of 1, okay, whatever that level is there. And so it's a way to, it's regression. It's regression in action, linear regression. So clearly when we move into later topics, we're going to do a deep dive into this thing called job performance, because we're going to have to quantify that in some way, shape, or form. So when we make selection decisions, okay, and that's what the entire next module is selection, right? And so when we make these selection decisions, it's about predicting. You want to predict who will be successful in a job. Okay? You want to take available data and use it to predict who will be successful. You do not want to hire somebody that will not be successful later. We'll definitely talk about the consequences of that. Okay? So predictors attempt to forecast criterion or job performance. Okay? Obviously, if we knew who was going to be successful, we wouldn't need predictors. Okay? So we'll definitely have something here. So what's up with predictors? If you break apart a job and do a job analysis, and the job analysis allows for job specifications in terms of KSAs, very possibly you might identify a K's, S, or A's. Say, for example, in the knowledge area, you might have specific knowledge or broad knowledge. Okay? And if specific knowledge isn't in fact important for this job, to be successful in this job, you might be interested in what specific courses somebody has taken. If the knowledge that you need to be successful at this job is more of a broad base, you wouldn't want to look at individual courses, you want to look at degrees. Okay? And so you see at this bottom level, we see some kind of a broad way that we can talk about different types of predictors that would predict different KSAs depending on which ones are important for a job based on the job analysis. Okay, so you see it comes back to the job analysis. I told you that in the last module. Okay? So what is a test? Well, a systematic procedure for observing behavior and quantifying. Okay? Quantifying behavior. That's really what, quantifying KSAs, right? Quantifying knowledge, skills, and aptitudes. And so a test is often referred to as a predictor or an assessment. And if you put multiple tests together, we'll often refer to a battery. A battery is a group of tests that function together. So obviously we're familiar with a lot of tests that are used, like the SAT is used for selecting for college purposes. Personality tests are used for selection in many places. Drug tests, obviously, as a way to select who will be successful employees. So when it comes to testing, there's a couple of overall global things to talk about before we get into some specific types of tests or predictors. Test predictors, see, I'm using the two words synonymously. So what happens is in computer adaptive testing, it's a interesting way and a way to get some subtle nuances in the differences between potential applicants. And so what happens is every applicant starts with the same question, all right, the same one. And then as the testing proceeds, if the applicant gets the first question right, the second question will be more difficult. And then the third item, the fourth. And so each item will be, the difficulty of each item will be like this. And so you can assess the maximum capacity of an individual quite quickly. And you can not just discriminate between, good and bad, but you can good and better. Okay, so it's a very subtle way to get at differences that might not be. Tests can be classified in two ways: a power test and a speed test. And a power test is basically, you get time, lots of time, and we want to know what you're capable, or what you know. Okay, it's expected that everybody's going to finish the test. In a speed test, what happens is we want to know not necessarily what knowledge KSAs you have, but how quickly can you access them. Because in many jobs, you need to be quick on your feet. Just because you know the answer, if you can't do it like that, it doesn't mean no good. And so a speed test is designed to find out how quickly you can pull knowledge out. Okay? Testing can be done individually or in groups. Obviously, group testing is cheaper. Group testing is the cheapest way to go. Individual tests cost a lot more money, but as you can probably guess, individual testing allows for more nuances and allows for much better, much more accurate measurement, much more reliable measurement, shall we say, or valid measurement. Okay. Testing can be done paper and pencil, or obviously nowadays online equals paper and pencil, even though we're not using paper and pencil. Okay. Or performance-based. That is to say, if you want to apply for a job as an airline pilot, it's all lovely if we give you a paper and pencil test about do you know where your knobs and switches are, but you darn well better to be able to actually fly an airplane. So, yeah, that's important. Okay, so clearly the candidate might be asked to prepare a syringe of Novocaine for administration by the dentist. Okay, so it's not just, do you know what Novocaine is? Do you know what a syringe is? Okay, so we'll come now and we'll start talking in the next, after you go and review the measurement material again, we'll come back for the next module where we're going to talk about specific types of predictors.